Fox News alert. Newly released transcripts now reveal former FBI lawyer Lisa Page told Congress that fired FBI agent Peter Strozk went into the special counsel's investigation thinking it could end with President Trump's impeachment, while potentially boosting his own career. Page also said the Department of Justice under President Obama pushed back against possible charges of gross negligence against Hilary Clinton in 2016, calling them constitutionally vague. President Trump is following all of this. He tweeted this morning, "The just revealed FBI agent Lisa Page transcripts make the Obama Justice Department look exactly like what it was, a broken and corrupt machine. Hopefully justice will finally be served. Much more to come." Joining me now, Republican Congressman Doug Collins of Georgia, ranking member on the House Judiciary Committee. Great to see you again today. I ran into you in the hallway at the Capitol yesterday.
It's amazing where you run into you. It's good to see you.
Does this mean, in some ways, is it possible that the president has been treated differently? What does this tell us?
I think he has been treated differently. This is not an up for debate argument. This is what we've been saying for over 2 years while we had Democrats making fun of us, Democrats thinking there was nothing going on. The transcript releases show an inherent two-tier system, one in which Hillary Clinton gets the treatment that she got, where there was actually at first concern that they were going to charge her, and then with Loretta Lynch in charge, before she recused herself, made it very clear that that was not going to happen. And then we see it transitioning right into with the same corrupt triumvirate of Page and McCabe and Strozk and others, who then go into the discussion on President Trump through the Russia investigation. That's what we see right now.
Not to make this salacious, just to spit the facts and not to lose sight of the fact of why we would believe something that Page would say about Strozk. They were lovers. They were close, and they were communicating on work devices. That's how we got to see their text messages. Why is it that we're now just seeing these transcripts? What's going on with the DOJ in terms of not releasing these things more contemporaneously?
Well, this is not up to the DOJ to release these. This is up to the folks in Congress. This is an investigation, if you remember, Harris, that was going on in the previous Congress with both the Judiciary Committee and the Oversight Committee as well. At the end of the Congress, it ran out, and with the Democrats taking over in the House, they've chose to let this lie. I've not chose to let it lie. I believe that accountability is needed here. I believe that what was happening was a result of an intentional effort by the DOJ to involve itself in a political process and not be the blind eye of justice that we see. That's why I'm releasing these. That's why I'll continue to release these. I would encourage people to follow us on Twitter or however and get ready, because more are coming.
And what is it that you hope to show in terms of where the conversation is now about that two-tier system that you're talking about, which really is political, and people would normally think that the FBI, the DOJ, there are no politics there?
Well, it shouldn't be politics there. No Democrat, Republican, or Independent should disagree with me on this point. DOJ and the FBI should be the blind eyes of justice, making sure that the laws are followed and the rule of law upheld. What I'm wanting to show here is what we have been saying for a long time that people wanted to ignore and people dismiss. That right now, frankly, Loretta Lynch has a lot of explaining to do. Why is she taking the law in itself and changing the standard to say, well, it really wasn't gross, maybe it was because of her relationship with Ms. Clinton. Maybe it was later on when she actually got caught with a former president on the plane and then she had to recuse herself. It had started way before then, so we don't need to give her a pass because of that. This is why we're just trying to say that the same group, not the entire FBI, not the entire DOJ, but the same group you will find starting in 2016 going through the appointment of the Mueller investigation. It was the same corrupt bunch going to the same thing, and you have Mr. Strozk, who was thinking this was his ticket to maybe FBI director. I don't know what, but we see this as a problem.
So what does justice look like in all of this is my first question. And the second part of that would be, have most or all of the people that you know were involved in all of this potentially gone now? Or does some of this still exist, do you think, at the FBI?
Most of these folks are gone. If we see in these, the three that I just mentioned, 2 were fired for cause and 1 left after being demoted. Bruce Orr is still employed by the department. What I've seen here, though, and I go back to Attorney General Bill Barr, who I have a lot of respect for, and who said in his hearings that he was willing to look into this when Senator Graham asked him, are you willing to look into this? Because what we find later on in July of 2016 that year was the opening of a FISA warrant on Carter Page. This is an interesting development because it was the same folks using dossier materials and others. justice. We have to assure that our investigative groups and our security and our intelligence communities are not being used in political partisan ways. This is why we got the FISA courts from the 70s and why they should be here today. This is an open and transparent process to say, Mr. Attorney General, we're giving you this information. Let's make sure this never happens again, and those that did should be held accountable.
All right. Representative Collins from the great state of Georgia, thank you very much.
The emails that were released, that both the Washington Post and the Times were essentially trying to push this story aside, bury it, if you like.
Yes, one New York Times reporter said, and I quote, he was being pressed into service, and he was going to only write it.
He didn't want to do it.
Right, exactly. That's a story like that, with an attorney general who is investigating the spouse of a former president.
Big story.
That's a huge story, and they didn't. It wasn't on anybody's schedule. This was only discovered because a local reporter found out that they were meeting.
Right.
Then afterwards, when it is discovered that the meeting happened, they were talking about golf and grandkids, which, you know, obviously no one buys. So, yeah, the fact that he said he was going to write it just to put it to rest, and his editors were pushing him to cover it. That's ridiculous. And what this is bias in broad daylight.
Yeah, and we didn't even get any reaction to it this weekend that I could tell, any discernible saying exactly what you just said. There's no outrage.
Let's play a game.
All right.
Okay, let's see if this story would have been covered. If you take out the name Loretta Lynch and you replace that with Robert Mueller, and then take out the name Bill Clinton and replace it with Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, or Melania Trump, what do you think would have happened?
Yeah, and that
you think you would have had to be pressed into the service to write that story?
He'd be hearing about nothing else.
There was a document dumped by the Republicans on the House Judiciary Committee. The House sent out hundreds of pages, and we're learning more about perhaps the deep state at the Department of Justice and at the FBI. Because in this document dump, they admitted that the FBI was ordered, Lisa Page, remember her, the FBI attorney, she admitted the FBI was ordered by the Barack Obama Department of Justice not to consider charging Hillary Clinton for gross negligence in handling intelligence, which is classified. Remember, in an early draft of what James Comey was, he was accusing Hillary Clinton of being grossly negligent. Well, gross negligence can be punished with prison time, but they changed it to extremely careless. And Page testified that there was conversations between the Department of Justice and the FBI about how to get her off the hook, essentially.
Republicans on the House Judiciary Committee, they released transcripts, hundreds of pages of these transcripts from that hearing with the Judiciary Committee. And this is what one of them said, to your point, when she was ordered not to charge Hillary Clinton. She says, we had multiple conversations with the Justice Department about bringing a gross negligence charge. And that's, as I said, the advice that we got from the department was that they did not think that it was constitutionally vague and not sustainable. Then Congressman Ratliff says, when you say advice you got from the department, you're making it sound like it was the department that told you you're not going to charge gross negligence because we're the prosecutors and we're telling you we're not going to. And she says, that's correct.
Oh, my goodness.
And this is from Congressman Collins, who actually was on the radio with me and says, in 45 minutes, I'm going to release more transcripts. If you like last week's, this is Lisa Page Day. So we found out Lisa Page is going to release all this, and it's, you talk about, it's about 350 pages. Now, the big question for me was, what's about this insurance policy that we discussed in Andy's office? Andy McCabe doesn't seem to remember in his book tour what they discussed with an insurance policy as relates to the presidency of the United States. Now, if I'm to believe Lisa Page in what she says, and if I understand the summary in which I read, it is essentially Lisa Page is saying Crossfire Hurricane was an investigation into a possible Russian infiltration into the Trump campaign. They say, being that we didn't think he was going to win, we could take our time. But in the event that you die because you're 40, before you're 40, we have an insurance policy where I guess it's an accelerated investigation into something that they admit in this copy and in this cross-examination they knew very little about.
The scary thing is just the fact that this essentially lays bare. It sounds like there was a deep state. We've heard about that for a while, but think about this. There's this FBI investigation looking into things, but it's the Department of Justice. It's Barack Obama's Department of Justice telling the FBI not to charge her, which, you know, the way the Department of Justice is who decides anyway. It's the FBI that just does the investigating.
Here's Doug Collins.
The president has been unfairly attacked from the moment he was elected in November 2016 on many fronts. And now we're beginning just to see the vast scope of what most of us knew, that Ms. Clinton was treated completely differently than what we ended up seeing President Trump being treated. And that's just wrong. This just shows that there's a two-tier system, and we're going to say we're going to get this out, and we're going to put it in ways that people can easily understand, not a large dump, but we're going to take it methodically as we go, as we get them cleared, and we're going to get them out to the American people.
The big question is, how high up did it go? And that is ultimately what everybody wants to know.
And when that Mueller probe, John Roberts reporting yesterday, the word is it's coming out this week. He says, I don't necessarily believe it, but there's a lot of noise about it coming out.
Right.
So they will get some more answers.
I heard from down in Washington there's a possibility that as soon as Mr. Manafort is sentenced, it could be dropped right then.
He's probably adding toner in his copier right now.
So this is just par for the course. I don't know why any of us are surprised. There is a brazen effort to undermine, U.S. law, and at the very least, the appearance of impropriety and ethical considerations, which you and I know as lawyers, people take very seriously.
Well, we've got the head of the investigation and the spouse of the person who well, she's being investigated. I don't know if she's the target, but that's what we have, meeting on a private plane for 30 minutes.
Yeah, the appearance of a conflict can be just as damaging and poisonous to a case at times as a conflict itself, an actual conflict. That's why you avoid situations like this. The last thing they need is any further undermining of the objectivity of this investigation, which, of course, Hilary called a security review, until she was corrected by the FBI director. So like, well, I don't know what they're talking about, security reviews. This is an actual investigation. But the appearance of a conflict of interest of Lynch now, I think there's no doubt about it.
What do you think Obama's thinking tonight, finding out that his chief lawyer did this? And what do you think Secretary Hillary Clinton is thinking about the fact that her husband met with him? And this is awful.
Depends on if she knew it depends on if she asked him to talk to her. I mean, who knows?
I can't believe she'd be that stupid. I cannot believe anyone would be that stupid.
How would you be stupid enough to think no one was going to find out about a private email server at a time where your husband's and your family foundation was soliciting donations from foreign governments? I mean, that is like the definition of stupid, yet she did that.
But it's amazing. I mean, it's as though they're giving their political opponents ammunition every single day.
Well, every single day, Greta, and the more we find out about emails that have been held back or other witnesses, taking the fifth, again, it just adds to the public's lack of belief and good faith in this investigation. And today was just another instance of it being chipped away again and again. It's not surprising, given the history of the Clintons and their brazen behavior.
But the Strozk emails show that the Clinton email investigation was wired. Well, how do they show this? Well, there's an email that Strozk sent one of his buddies, frankly his supervisor at the FBI, Bill Priestap, who's assistant director for the FBI Counterintelligence Division. And so I think Strozk was immediately under Priestap. And he sent an email saying that the Clinton, let me get the email out directly here. The email is conveying a news article. It says, Lynch to remove herself from decision over Clinton emails, officials say. Peter Strozk sends the article. Muffa says, oh, that's an interesting development about Lynch recusing herself, really not recusing herself. And this is the kicker. Strozk responds, note, this has been under discussion since last April. Timing's not great, but what are you going to do? And he writes back, Muffa, nothing. We just keep doing what we need to do and let this swirl around us. So this email suggests that the Clinton email investigation decision-making, that decision, whether to prosecute her or not, from the FBI's perspective and the DOJ's perspective, was already wired back in April of 2016, which was months before Hillary Clinton was actually interviewed, if you wouldn't even want to call it an interview. So it just confirms the Clinton email investigation was wired early on, corruptly, by the FBI. This Strozk email confirms that. No wonder they held it from us. So it's not necessarily the Clinton-Lynch Tarmac meeting. It's the corruption exposed as a result to talking about it. Because what the FBI's position was is like, look, this meeting really screwed us up because it's going to make it look like it was corrupted, even though we already made the decision not to prosecute her before the meeting took place. That was their concern. Why on earth did the FBI cover these records up? I want to know more about this cover-up. Is there going to be an Inspector General investigation over the handling of this FOIA case? I doubt it. And remember, the Justice Department is still withholding information about the tarmac meeting, including the draft talking points Loretta Lynch needed. If it was no big deal, why did they need talking points? I don't have them with me, but you can go online and look at them, paragraph after paragraph of talking points that are blacked out by the Jeff Sessions Justice Department. So if you want to know why sometimes the president is frustrated at the Justice Department, I'm sure he's aware that they're protecting Hillary Clinton and the Obama Justice Department. They're doing it on the tarmac meeting. They're doing it with Hillary Clinton. They're doing it on Spygate, on maskings, you name it.